Hey, this is Johnny Wisdom. You're listening to Card Subject to Change with Stripes, the Wizard, and the Honorable One. Those are stupid names.
What happens when a wizard, an honorable man, and a zebra walk into a bar? You get the Card Subject to Change podcast, of course. And as the name states, we're all about switching gears in the clutch. Our scheduled guest is a bit under the weather today, so Shane Hollister will join us next week, and we hope he feels better soon. Meanwhile, we have an equally epic guest tonight, as we are joined by SCWPro veteran and Hall of Famer Johnny Wisdom. Card Subject to Change, of course, is part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. Let's take you to the Michael P.S. Hayes of podcasting, the Honorable Nick Bowl.
Oh, yeah!
We are live.
The Card Subject to Change podcast, as the lovely voice said, helping us out here in the clutch is a multi-time SCWPro tag team champ, a QC Cup champion, former heavyweight champion, a PGP cutting edge champion, an MCW tag and heavyweight champion, a former NWA official, and Stripes added here, the illegitimate child of Tracy Smothers. Please welcome Johnny Wisdom.
One of the many illegitimate children. And as you can see, we're live here on camera for the first time, I think, in podcast history here.
You're welcome.
Yep.
And then this is all Johnny Wisdom's doing.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm in a hotel room. I'm on the bed. It's not very comfortable to sit in the chair. So if my camera's moving around, I'm not trying to give anybody motion sickness, but I am holding my iPad in my hands as we record this. So
what CZ is trying to tell you is he's doing the Winnie the Pooh right now. He's got a shirt on, but nothing down below.
Perfect.
It's fine. It's fine. When did I become a Hall of Famer? Angle.
Are you not? Okay, that was my bad, because I was for sure that you were a Hall of Famer.
No.
I'm predicting the future, Johnny. Okay. That's my fault. I apologize.
That's fine.
You're in our Hall of Fame, Johnny. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I apologize for my scruffled look. I got this phone call last minute to do this, so didn't have time to clean up the area where I do this stuff. So I have Christmas still up in February because I'm lazy, and my Christmas presents.
No, it's great. I appreciate you coming on, Johnny. I know, like I said, Shane's under the weather, so next best thing, Johnny Wisdom. Definitely in the clutch, coming in last minute. I know I'm excited to speak to you. We go back a long ways, and
20 years, 21,
20. Yeah, that sounds about right.
It would be.
Hey, I've known you almost that long too, off and on. So
yeah, one thing I am known for is knowing somebody everywhere. If you ever talk to Crotch about it, that is one thing he hates about me. We can go to a random Walmart and I'll know somebody. I know one of the bartenders from the beer stube, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, that's so and so." He's like, "Of course you would know that." So I know somebody everywhere from life.
But that's not always a bad thing. I mean, you could get the hookup everywhere you go.
That's true. Johnny, let's get the ball rolling. We always start when we have an interview talking about origin stories, and I want to hear yours. How did you become a fan? And how did you become an active member of the pro wrestling community?
So I've actually got to tell this story quite recently, a couple of times. So my earliest restart that. My earliest memory of wrestling is actually my whole dad's side of the family is from Northern Alabama. So my Aunt Teresa took me to a show. I don't remember how old I was. I don't remember who was there. I just remember going to the community center, being like first, second row, them telling me kind of, who to cheer for and who not to cheer for. And I just remember that. But I mean, I have pictures. They've given me pictures of them at, I believe it was Night of the Skywalkers. They were actually at, because I believe that was in Huntsville or Birmingham or maybe in Georgia. I mean, they have pictures
nice
a young Flair, like, prime Flair, like being from knee to the wall from him. Wrestling's just kind of been something it's been around my family. I have pictures of me waiting outside the Coliseum in Birmingham, Alabama, out back waiting for the wrestlers to come in. I got a picture with Hoovy unmasked. I got a whole bunch. So wrestling's kind of always been around. We used to sit every Wednesday when TNA first started. They did Wednesday pay-per-views. We would be at my Aunt Teresa's on Wednesday watching them, and then we do the WWE pay-per-views at my uncle's. Funniest thing about that one, so their hardcore system used to be a point system. If you don't remember, you can't remember that far back. So they had a couple of hillbilly guys were kind of like doing the point system. They had it on a board and like hit them with the stop signs a point, hit them with this is 2 points, put them in an outhouse is 5 points. If it's full of sheet, it's 10 points. But it was spelled SHEET, like full of sheet.
Right.
So just random stuff like that. And then me getting into wrestling. So I will be 36. Yeah, I'll be 30. Fuck. I'll be 36.
God, you're old.
Yeah, shut up. I'll be 36 in April.
Yeah, but you bring the median age down in this room.
You're welcome. I started all of this when I was 16 as a referee. And that came by happenstance. So the man who started everything, who I'm sure you guys will have on at some point, worked for my stepdad at the Chef's Hat. My stepdad owned that restaurant. That's how I met Stephen Youngblood.
Yes.
So he worked for my stepdad and told me about this wrestling thing. And actually, not a lot of people know this. I was supposed to come in, and me and one of the manager's kids that also worked there were supposed to come in and kind of do commentary because they were trying to find somebody to do commentary. So we were going to come in and do that. That never panned out. So when they took the hiatus from the barn and we started doing stuff out in the shows and bought the ring, there was a miscommunication on the first show date at St. Alphonsus. So I didn't start until the second show. So the second show at the Freight House, what was it, QC Live then?
QC Live back then, yep.
QC Live.
So that's where I started. And I mean, I reffed in white trip pants at one time. Like,
I remember those pants. Those I just shake my head because I know.
So I mean, I would get off work and come shoot down, and they wanted me to start reffing because I had an amateur wrestling background. So it just fit the mold of what they wanted to do. And then it snowballed from there. For 5 years, I got my ass kicked for a long time, but we ran a program where the first guy I had a program with was Steven Youngblood, but every time he would lose the championship, I was the referee. So eventually he just got fed up with me and just beat the holy hell out of me.
Yep.
And that's just, it kind of snowballed from there. So, I mean, I started as a ref. Me and Angle were the only two NWA affiliated referees in the area in the Midwest at the time, because all it was the Ritters running NWA. So that's how I was an NWA affiliated referee. I think I still have the shirt upstairs. So that's kind of how the origin story started and how I kind of got into it. And it's just snowballed from there for 19 years to where we are now.
I want to go back and touch on something, Johnny, you talked about in those pay-per-view parties that you talked. Well, is there a moment or a match or a particular show that stands out for one of those pay-per-view parties? I can tell you mine. I had like 15 people in my living room when we watched WrestleMania 14 and Stone Cold Steve Austin finally won the belt, and we were going crazy. And that's one. I mean, you got something, talk about that. I mean, you've seen a lot of those pay-per-views with family. I'm sure you've got a favorite moment or match from one of those shows.
It has to be the scoreboard for TNA's. I don't know if that's the one that's the story I always tell, is the scoreboard system and the outhouse full of sheet and spelled SHE, because my aunt just lost her mind. And I was sitting on the floor in front of one of her chairs. I think she was sitting on the floor over here, and she's just keeled over, just knee slapping, losing it. But like, it's that, and then it's just the like going with my aunt and her kid, her youngest son, and all of that to wait outside and get the pictures and have that picture with Hoovy unmasked just randomly at, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, whatever it was.
Sure.
Just those are the ones that stick out. I mean, I hit every WWE that came to the mark. I mean, there's the blue steel cage that was Undertaker and Mankind.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, there was
yep.
that one. I mean, the only one I didn't go to here was, what was it, like 94 Bash at the Beach or what random?
And that's the one that I missed too when I was actually out of town on that one. That's the one thing I missed.
Whatever actual pay-per-view came to the mark was the one I missed.
I was there for that. I was in the rafters for that one. It was the Great American Bash.
What I think it was? That's what I was just going to say. It was Great American Bash.
And it was right in the heart, 97. Right in the heart of Savage and Page's big feud. Wasn't that the feud of the year?
Wasn't that the blow off? Like Page got the win. Like that was the big, or was that at Halloween Havoc?
I thought that was at Havoc.
Okay, because like Page will tell that story all the time on how like they were doing whatever and they hit something and Savage is like, no, that's it. Like I think it was like Page hit the cutter out of nowhere off the elbow dropper, something random, whatever it was. And I just can't remember where that like big payoff finally was.
I don't either officially, but
I think it might have been Halloween
remember
Havoc.
It being. I think it was
because they used Havoc for a lot of stuff. Because that was the same Eddie Mysterio match of 20 years or whatever. I mean, there's people still talk about that match.
Yes. Johnny, I want to go back. You're talking about Stephen Youngblood, definitely somebody I want to have on the show at some point. How do you get from him kicking the crap out of you to you two being tag team partners?
So I'm so glad you remember that because that's some of my favorite. So I mean, everybody watching and listening knows that I don't really, I'm not really the a-hole that I portray when I'm doing a show. Me and Steve, yeah, I know. Me and Steven are actually best friends. For the longest time, it was you see me, he's generally right there. You see him, I'm generally right there with other people sprinkled in. I consider his kids my family. I go out to the farm for 4th of July, all of that. So, excuse me. When SCW kind of took its hiatus while everybody was having their families and growing up, MCW came around, and Scott, rest his soul, Angle can speak to it. It was, he pulled some of the guys that weren't top of the card at SCW at the time and focused his stuff around that.
And not even Scott, Bob Pence, the Mauler, him too. They both, we're in that group.
And I know that's where my story started as an announcer, but go on.
I don't remember exactly how it happened. I was always just doing my kind of just my thing, being me, being my weird self and not caring what other people think, whether you like me or hate me, turned up to 11. And I think Steve wanted to change a character. So it just happened. It's like, oh, we're friends. We're always around each other. Let's just be a tag team, whatever. So we ordered Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty rocker style tights. So, but they were more like Huss Jimmy Jacobs-ish. So one full leg, one biker short, white, neon pink, and neon green. And we would just interchange them.
And all you were missing was the furry boots. That would have been Jimmy Jacobs right there.
But then we also took like AC/DC t-shirts and like cut the sleeves so it was the strings and tied the knots and did that all around the bottom too. So, and it was legitimately, it was slamming Stephen Youngblood. He never slammed anybody. and jumping Johnny Wisdom, and my big ass didn't jump.
No.
Like the man who's legitimately scared of heights would climb the top rope and give the elbow drop, and I'm the one slamming people around. But we just went full on. I think we wanted our tag team name to be "Show Us Your Hits."
I like that.
I think it was a like a compilation CD from like the 80s stuff that was called "Show Us Your Hits," but it fit. And that's where "Living on a Prayer" started. Like that's where that entrance music started. That used to be the karaoke song of the group. We would all just get hammered at Creekside and sing "Living on a Prayer" at the top of our lungs after shows. So then we just took that to there, and then Steve kept that as he went on to do the rest of his stuff before I retired him.
And when I hear that song, I still sing at the top of my lungs, while delivering mail, still to this day. Now, Johnny, you I hate to do this, but I keep jumping back and forth between timelines here.
You're fine.
And so I me, I want to jump back to your referee days when you were with the NWA.
Yep.
And what was it like for you? I know how my personal experience. What was it like for you as a fan coming up, knowing that you were an NWA sanctioned referee, and then actually going back as a kid, watching NWA, TNA was not NWA back then.
Yeah.
But how did that kind of fit in with your, your mantra? How did that fit in with your mode of thinking?
So being a referee, especially given what the Ritters were doing, because at the time that was the thing. It was the Ritters doing that because they were bringing in AJ Styles and Petey Williams and Joey Legend. Joey Legend was actually my first camp. I punched him right in the neck 3 times. It was terrible. He was showing us punches, and I just punched him in the neck. He just goes, "Ow, my neck." I'm like, shit. Sorry. But
hey, I've dropped F-bombs on here. I'm trying my best to keep my mouth clean, but drop whatever you need to. Say whatever you need to.
So to answer your question, it was cool because I got to ref AJ Styles as NWA heavyweight champion. I got to hold the 10 pounds of gold. And I think that one was against Danny Daniels. But there was also a lot of issues. There was a certain wrestler who I won't name that Angle can almost pinpoint that was in WWE for a little bit, and his name has a B in it.
Yep. Okay.
He was just kind of the locker room bully, and I was. It was always hot in the building because they ran at the same building, and I grabbed a towel to wipe that was just sitting in the sink by the doorway where everybody. I just grabbed it, wiped my face off, and he's like, "You use my towel?" It's like, "Sorry, man, I didn't know it was yours." And just like the high school jock who just got picked on when he was a fat kid, just started squirting me in the crotch with his water bottle.
For no reason.
I'm like, first off, dude, I'm wearing black pants. No one's gonna see, but you're just being real dumb. But I mean, it was just a blast. It was a blast because I got to make a lot of mistakes, but I got to learn. I got to be in there with a lot of guys and learn. As a referee, just count to 3. Don't worry about what your finish is, because that had gotten messed up a couple of times because a guy got knocked out, finish got changed up. Different things like that. I received the nickname Johnny Chocolate Maker Wisdom from CM Punk. I don't remember how that one came about. He was on commentary and just said it.
Now was that in Rock Island down at the Masonic Temple?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah,
because when they started doing Muscatine, I wasn't reffing for him anymore. I started wrestling, and they were asking me when I was going to get trained so they could book me, because they were trying to pull a lot of the Quad City guys that were going to Danny in.
Yep. Yeah, because I don't think Punk ever came to Muscatine. Yeah, he was definitely in Rock Island a couple times.
Yeah, because he put AJ's head through the ring with the Pepsi plunge off the top rope.
That's right.
Jeez.
Yep. Because it was an Ian ring. I'll leave it at that.
So,
Yep.
It was an Ian ring.
oh no.
I think they're still in those at Walmart.
Yep.
So Johnny, we're talking about your days as a referee. I kind of want to follow up, and I want to ask you what it felt like to transition from wearing the stripes, being the zebra, to being a wrestler. How was that transition for you? What did you have to do to move into the different role? What was that like?
So the transition's kind of funny. It wasn't that hard because we had set stories in there. So the thing with Steve was one of them. And then we were at the Bettendorf Community Center down there, and Pierce Peters was doing an open challenge. We did the Ted DiBiase, like, basketball, I'll pay you $100, and then he kicks it at the last one. And then he had the open challenge. Well, I was the referee. I just had my gear on underneath, and I just stripped down in the ring behind him, and I beat him up. But I actually used blue and white pinstripe long tights as my first wrestling tights, and because it stuck with the ref thing. And then that transitioned into eventually the thing with Steve, and then it just kind of slowly more and more transitioned into doing some tag stuff and different things like that. So it wasn't terrible, because you got to think back in those days when we were running at Don's Pub, people would get there at 11 o'clock in the morning because everybody was 18, 19, 20 years old, didn't have a whole lot of jobs, didn't have family. Yep. Everybody would get there at 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Ring would be up, and we'd spend the rest of the day just rolling around while we're setting everything up. And guys would just come in and out. I mean, we would be there all day, sometimes the night before if they didn't have a wedding. So yeah, it was kind of an easier transition because I had that kind of roll around time, and there wasn't a lot expected out of me and expected out of a lot of the guys, because it was just a bunch of dudes having fun. It was in front of 7,500 people out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody really cared. But that is transitioned into in front of 200 to 400 people consistently. Yeah. And being booked every weekend all the time. So, but yeah, the transition was pretty easy. The hardest part has been up until I'd say the last 10 years, really locking down who Johnny Wisdom is as a character and as a person, as a wrestling persona. I'm essentially now just me. And it took quite a while to find that. I went through some tag teams. I went through some single stuff. I went through being in groups, and now I'm just, I'm going to throw you around and I'll punch you in the face because I'm fat, out of shape, and I can't do all the flippy shit.
Talk about that a bit. How did you come up with the Midwest Strong Style? Where did that come from? What built up to that?
That came from, they wouldn't let me, because I had become pretty decent. I won't say I'm great by any means, but I get the job done. I get trusted with a lot of the students' first matches, and being able to talk to the students. Like if I'm down at the school, their coaches don't mind if they're over here and I see something that I know needs to be fixed. I can go do that. So it came from, originally I wanted to use the gatekeeper, because at the time I was like high in the kind of what they call mid-card of everything. And guys would come through me before they moved on to be in the main events and the top of that. I wanted to be the gatekeeper, and put that over some of the guys who make the character decisions and help with that. Didn't want to do that because it almost puts a cap on you. I considered myself the Jake Roberts. Like, he was never here, but he was always right there, and he got plugged in here when they needed him. And then when I was kind of traveling a little bit, going to Chicago and in here and there, I wanted to do kind of the best kept secret, and that didn't really fit, because not a lot of people know about me. People always after they see me, they're like, well, why aren't you more places? I've had guys who train guys go, you're way better than I thought you ever would be. You would be more places if you would be known if you would travel more. So that didn't fit. So I kind of just started, really, I just pulled everything back, and I was like, well, what am I good at? I have a wrestling background. I'm bigger than only a handful of the guys are bigger than me.
Right.
So I really started using that to my advantage and really just going back to that Pete Dunne, William Regal, Fit Finley, JBL, let's just throw hands. We don't need, I can be a base for all of the flippy stuff, and I can be there to catch that. But if you're going to go one-on-one with me, we're going to throw hands, and it's just how it's going to be. And then I started seeing some guys who are doing like the King of Southern strong style, and then there's the British strong style and all of that. And I was like, well, I'm in the Midwest. I don't know. I'll just do Midwest strong style, because it just really fit to that kind of what I was doing, where that, some people consider that there's many ways to do it, but a lot of people consider that strong style is just the strikes and the throws and the not a lot of flash. So that's kind of where that came from and how that transitioned into the character that you kind of see now.
And, that's a great point. You talk about different styles. You're not doing the flippy stuff. Nick and I have said multiple times on the show, styles makes fights. We're going to throw to a quick promo, and then we'll come back more with Johnny Wisdom here in just a minute. Okay, guys?
Part of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. You're listening to Cards Subject to Change with the fabulous Freebirds of podcasting, Chris Stripes Angle, the Honorable Nick Bull, and the Wizard CZ, bringing you the best podcast wrestling action in the Quad Cities. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out the forfrequencysake.com for our archives and other great podcasting content.
Welcome back. Cards Subject to Change here in the studio tonight. Joining us is Johnny Wisdom. And right before the break, we talked about how you found your character. The deeper you got into your character, the deeper you got into your career. What did it feel like at that moment? That epiphany, that light going on. Relief, gratefulness. I mean, when like, okay, this is my niche. This is me now.
It really just makes everything click. Like, you'll see a lot of guys don't really hit their stride until their 30s. Like, if you look at a lot of the top guys that are doing everything real well, they're all in their 30s or above, because you just it takes that long to kind of figure out what works. Some guys get it right away, but to finally hone in that character and figure out what works for you and what works for the crowds you're in front of, it takes that long. So it really took until the last 5-6 years when I started getting to that 30 age and just stopped worrying about trying to be fancy and just really stick to that, what's going to entertain, and knowing the crowd I'm around and the crowds that are around here and come to the shows that I am on are a very heavy WWE crowd. They don't know a lot of the indie darlings, as people call them, or the guys that are top on the indies. They know what's on TV. So if you play to that strength, and that's just finally what clicked. And it wasn't something that was being done a lot. Guys were doing more of the a million things in a row and trying to get the guys in the locker room or the people who kind of know what's going on, trying to get them to chuckle or laugh or pop them, as opposed to putting on that show towards the audience. So it was just really a weight off my shoulders, and I could just really hone in on just improving that. And then if you go back and chronologically watch it from 5 years ago and watch how everything kind of changes and shifts, and watch how my accolades stack up and pile up as I hone in more on who Johnny Wisdom is as the professional wrestler.
Now, we were talking about your traveling days, Johnny. Let's talk a little bit about your illegitimate father, Tracy Smothers. I know you spent some time with Tracy, and you actually were part of a, what would you call it, a stable with?
So it was a one night thing. So here's how it happened. It was in, I think, Peoria at their dome for like their indoor soccer league or whatever. I forget the name of the company, but Joey Grunge was running it. And
Okay.
I will say this about Joey to anybody listening. There's people who have problems with him. That man has never done me wrong.
No.
He
Neither have
gave me opportunities. I got to
Yep.
wrestle Axel Rotten and team with Ian against him and Axel.
Yeah.
Nobody else that night wanted to do it. He asked 4 or 5 people before me. Nobody else wanted to. So that man has never done wrong by me. I know some people have issues with him. So we're on the card. I'm in the opening match. It's a 4-way with myself, Marcus Crane, rest his soul, Knight Wagner, and a returning Dan the Man. It was one of his first matches after he almost died.
Yeah.
He took a really bad fall and cracked his head really bad. So we kind of just do our thing, whatever. We have a fun little, it's us 4 angle. You kind of know 3 out of the 4. You didn't really know Dan, but Dan would have fit in just fine. So we just kind of did our thing. I come to the back, and I think either Joey or Shane Hollister grabbed me and said, Tracy wants to talk to you. Let me tell you, this man is sitting in a steel chair, poked his head through the curtain watching the show right from the get-go. So that just, when people say like he watched from start to finish, he did. He just looks at me and goes, who trained you? It's like Danny and a little bit of Shane. He's, oh, okay, you know what you're doing. I like what you're doing. You're with me tonight. Oh, okay. So he liked my heel work, and from a 10-minute, 8-10-minute 4-way. Now it's a 4-way. It's not like I'm in there with one-on-one and can really showcase what I can do. It was a 4-way, and he decided to want me at his side. So it was me and Marcus Crane with Tracy Smothers against Shane Hollister. Tracy comes out and just cuts this big long promo that he does about mass suicide or homicide and gonna land a helicopter on the roof and fly us out of here, and just everything that he did. But it's a running thing that kind of, if Tracy picks you, you're an illegitimate Smothers. There's a lot of guys that Tracy kind of quote unquote took under his wing. They're all illegitimate Smothers. So that's kind of just my running joke is I'm an illegitimate Smother. And
that's pretty awesome.
From a 8-minute fatal 4-way match to being at ringside with him while him and Shane Hollister had a match. So
that's so awesome.
That's kind of fun.
I know. I have a Tracy story, and I'll tell that later. I don't want to overshadow you, Johnny, with that story. But speaking of, all your traveling, like I said, and Tracy Smothers, let's jump back to SCW. You are not only a former 2-time heavyweight champion, part of a tag team champion, multiple time tag team champion. Talk about that. When you're holding the gold, what is it like for you to be showing the younger kids how to act like a champion and how in the ring and both out of the ring?
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. I don't necessarily say I act like a champion, unfortunately. So I don't know. It's weird for me because I just look at it all differently. I understand that in this day and age that those championship belts or a trophy or whatever it is are a prop to most people. But to me, it being entrusted with that means whoever is in charge of putting these shows together trust you to be the main focus of that area. So I got, a couple of the tag team reigns. I just got thrown in there. I think there was one with Nevin Knoxville when Gage Blagojevich got sent off to rehab. This is going way back. A couple of them I just got thrown into there, but like the first one that was kind of, I earned it. It was me and Gunner Franks. We were men. Muscle Explosion now. It was some of the most fun I had. That was kind of when SCW came back. We did the one night stand and everything just kind of snowballed from there. I got to wrestle the Hooligans with them. We got to do a lot of fun stuff. We went our separate ways. And then I fell into having the QC Cup, which was really the start of me kind of going off on my singles run. I was one of the first handful to have the new cup. We kind of trying to figure out what we were doing. So we tried a cup. I was one of the first handful to have that. And then I came back around to it when I was in a stable. The night me and Gunner lost the tag titles, I came back out pretty much right away under a hoodie, a zip up hoodie that zipped all the way up, and I forget who I helped beat up, but then I joined the kind of main bad guy heel stable at the time, and that was kind of the takeoff there, and I did some stuff with that, and then really I've kind of hit my stride when I kind of just dumped all the extra stuff and it's just me. But I don't really, to me, I still take great pride in a promoter wanting to put one of their title belts or whatever you want to call them on me, because they trust you to carry a match, to pull people in, to do well enough that they can build programs and cards and fill the venue with you, because a lot of times those are what they're going to promote. You're going to see the main title promoted and the mid card title. The two main singles titles are what a lot of people are going to promote. So if they're going to trust you with those, you're doing something right. So I still take great honor into it, even though a lot of people see him as a prop. It's just a part of the story, but I still take great pride in receiving those.
Really quick here, I want to acknowledge the Chief DJ. He's in the chat. He's a fellow Chiefs fan, just like Johnny Wisdom. I gotta acknowledge that. Thanks for joining us tonight, DJ.
Went to like 4 games this year.
Speaking of your recent stuff, last night you and I had an event, SCWPro Heartbreak, at the Bluegrass Community Center.
Yes.
You took on none other than Corn Boy, one of the younger SCWPro graduates.
Yep.
If you remind me again, what class was Corn Boy in?
I don't remember.
Okay.
They do 3 a year, and there's been so many of them, and I don't do this to be mean, but unless they stay around, I don't really try to get to know them until after their class is done. Because a lot of them are from overseas, so they're only here on like a short visa, or they move from across the country and they want to go back home to their family, or they had daddy's money and just kind of want to be a wrestler and give it a try. So they fork over the money and then do nothing with it. So unless they really stay around, I don't try to get to know them. So I don't know what class is what. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what class they're on. I couldn't tell you what class is the next one. He's been around a couple of years though.
He's been a little bit. Now when you're working with those younger students, what kind of advice do you give them, not only as a singles competitor, but maybe as in like a tag team competitor esque when you're going into matches like that?
Really, with the training they're getting and who their coaches are, I don't have to say a word. I will, if I take a liking to them, I'll watch and be like, hey, maybe try this. Or, next time, maybe try it this way. It might flow a little bit better. It might work a little bit better for you. Or what were you thinking here? Like, I'll do that. But I don't necessarily go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like, I just don't, because they're already getting world-class training with the academy. You can't find a better crew of coaches there. So I don't need to do that. They already know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try to, there's been a couple of guys that I've had to tell slow down because they're a little nervous or anxious. And I don't, not patting myself on the back, but I don't necessarily know if any of them get nervous working with me just because I've been around so long. I don't know, they might, but I know I've never come across it. And no one's ever said anything to me. And I've really never had major issues because the ones who stay are going to be able to do something. They're going to be decent. Because they put those kids through. I mean, if you are only here for laughs and giggles, they'll weed you out real quick. They only want the ones that are serious, and the ones that are serious and really want to do this are the ones that stay around.
Yeah, they do have a top-notch training regimen at the Black and the Brave Academy. If anybody listening definitely wants to, pursue wrestling as a career, that would be definitely a choice to go to, if not the choice to go to for wrestling training. I know, CZ, you had something that you wanted to ask Johnny?
So I actually kind of want to transition a little into your fandom, your wrestling fandom. I want to start though with you as a wrestler.
Okay.
So past or present, if there was one person that you have not shared the ring with that you want to do before you hang your boots up, who's it going to be?
Are we talking anybody? Like
anybody?
I would like to
or
hear
present?
past and present. Let's give them two
agree
answers.
With that. Yes.
So I would absolutely love for William Regal in his prime to just throw me around and teach me.
Yes.
Just let him just beat the snot out of me.
God, yes.
Just let him do it. I don't care, but I would learn so much.
I would be in the front row for that match.
And then present. I mean, that Dustin Mosley that we have, I'd like to get in there and throw hands with him. We're both Alabama boys. Half my family's from Alabama. He's got a very bright future. So I would absolutely love to knock his block off and destroy his pretty little hair because he has real nice hair. He's got real good hair.
That would be.
He's got Nick Bull hair.
That'd be a lot of hands being thrown around. That'd be a full-fledged hoss fight.
Yep, that would be.
And I can't arrange
meaty
that,
men.
but Nick is his self-proclaimed twin brother. So I could arrange for you and Nick to get in the ring if you wanted.
I don't want to hurt him. I see a lot of gray in the beard, so I don't want to hurt him.
Sorry, Nick. I had to put you on the spot there. I couldn't help myself. Johnny, so you're a big fan of wrestling growing up here. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
His connection froze.
Yeah, I think we're having some connection issues with Nick here. Johnny, I want to ask you, we talked a little bit about, being a wrestler or being a fan of wrestling and how you became a fan. Give me some names. Who are you watching growing up before you get into the business? Who's on your radar as far as wrestlers go?
I mean, especially at my age, I mean, everybody was watching Ric Flair, William Regal. I didn't really have any. I didn't have any that like some guys will be like Savage was it for me, or Hogan was my guy, or Warrior was my guy, or Hart, Michaels. It goes to the same with like football. Like, yes, I enjoy the Chiefs. I wouldn't call myself like a diehard Chiefs fan. I just enjoy good football. I'll watch any game as long as it's good football. I just enjoy good wrestling. Do I lean more towards like the Pete Dunne style? Like I like Pete. I like that kind of style. Yeah, but I can't pinpoint like when I'm sitting there as a kid watching and going, that's it. That's who does it for me. I was just captivated by just the aspect of it. And I think that just stems from being introduced to it so young and not knowing and just having that around. Like, you just like wrestling. I don't know. People might call me a fake wrestling fan, but I don't know.
Well, let's turn that around a little bit. In today's age, you can pretty much watch any wrestling event from any time, with few exceptions. Let's say you've got some free time on your hands. You fire up Peacock. What are you turning on?
You stumped him, Steve.
You did stump me.
I sure did.
I mean, I got home last night after the show and I fired on NXT's pay-per-view just because I wanted to check it out. You know, like I'm intrigued by the Steiner kid.
Braun Breaker.
Yeah, whatever they're calling him. I was just intrigued to see because they're kind of getting better, but to be honest, I don't anymore. I don't fire wrestling on a whole lot. A lot of it came from before, work. I was just working a lot and I was dead. I've more recently finally gotten back into, I actually watched all of Monday Night Raw for once. I watched the Rumble. A lot of times I just turn on the pay-per-views. Like, I don't want to watch the weekly TV.
Yeah.
And I attribute it the same as a professional football player, like after he's done and retired, might struggle for a little bit to watch football because you're seeing the mistakes or you're seeing the stuff that you don't agree with. I can't watch it it's hard for me to watch it as a fan anymore.
because you over criticize it.
I do. I
agree. Yeah.
That's terrible. Or that.
I find myself doing the same thing, because as a referee, CZ can attest to it. We were talking about the other night. I was watching a pay-per-view, and I was like, why is that referee counting so slow?
Yep.
What does that?
Or you hear the ref. There's one ref that's notorious for it on WWE. You can a lot of times audibly hear him yell, "Kick out" or "Stay down."
Yeah, you can hear him yell the call outs, and it's just like, as a someone in the business, you listen for that, not on purpose, but it's kind of tuned in your head.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, I don't even go and watch the big pay-per-views with a big group of people, because there's those kind of fans that I'm just like, you are driving me nuts with whatever you're saying. Like, I can't do it. I'm old. I can't do it. I just rather sit at home and just watch it, or watch it with like guys who are kind of in the same mindset where we can talk about weird mistakes or why that was done. But I honestly don't turn on a whole lot of wrestling anymore.
I can understand that. Gentlemen, let's toss to one more quick break here. We're going to beg for money from people, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, but we'll be right back.
No, he doesn't.
Subject to Change is looking for dedicated sponsors. If you or your business would like to join the Card Subject to Change podcast, hit us up at our official podcast email, cstcpodcast2022@gmail.com.
Welcome back. We're still on camera, so we were here the whole time, but just a little bit of a voiceover. We're talking with Johnny Wisdom, a future Hall of Famer in the SCWPro family, I'm sure.
Not a current Hall of Famer.
Maybe a future one. I don't know. So I'm gonna turn the tables on you guys. So I was watching a podcast a while ago, and this question came on, and I've wanted to ask it on a podcast ever since.
Awesome.
What one thing do you feel everybody needs to go through in life? So for example, I have two of them, and one pertains to my recent set of jobs. One is legitimately getting punched in the face. Not like, oh, you dirty rascal. No, you insulted my wife or my mother or my kids. Right. I'm going to hurt you. I think everybody just needs to experience that to see if you can take a punch in the face. I don't know. The other one is everybody who wants to drive a 4-wheel vehicle needs to get behind an 18-wheeler or ride in an 18-wheeler for a month to know why they drive the way they do and how hard it is for them to stop so suddenly, and how slowly a fully loaded one shifts and why it does the things it does. Because people don't. They just stay in the way. They cut you off. They zoom around you. They try to cut in front of you when you're making wide turns. It's terrible. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Like, what do you think everybody needs to experience?
Nick, do you want to take this first, or you kind of look deep in thought?
What is everything everyone should experience?
It's a great question.
It is. I mean,
Johnny put us on the spot. That's amazing. I like this. He stumped all three of us. So I'm gonna piggyback on yours, Johnny. I think, along with being punched in the face, I think getting into a legitimate fight, no matter what age you are, just to feel that feeling when you have it, that you're angry with someone so much that you just have to kind of purge it. You know what I mean?
It's the primitive side of you to know if you can survive when your life depends on it. Because if you don't go into every fight thinking they're trying to kill you, you are deadly wrong.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, I definitely think that's one of them.
There is no such thing as a fair fight. If I get in a fight with somebody, as far as I know, they are trying to hurt me permanently.
Yeah.
And I will bite your face off. I will grab your ear. I will poke your eyes out. I will dig my thumbs into the back of your skull.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying. That's what I always say.
It is a street fight. If I wanted to have
Right.
a fair fight, I would train to be a boxer or MMA. Those are the only fair fights. Everything else, anything goes.
Duly
right.
noted. Do not meet Johnny Wisdom in a back
No.
alley when he is pissed off.
Nope.
No, thank you.
Only if he wants to sell you. Never mind. No, you know what? Never mind.
$20 is $20.
Oh, no.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
Whoa.
Well, we know what Johnny's doing after the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
And we are officially off the rails, gentlemen. Off the rails. I
haven't
don't
even been
know
drinking.
that I have a good answer to your question.
That's
I-
fair. That's fair.
I got one thing everybody should go through in life. You're gonna laugh at me when I say this, is eating shit. Being humble the word.
Yeah.
I legitimately thought he meant like feces. Like
Oh no. Like, you're wrong. I think everybody needs to feel that. Everybody needs to go through that. Just so you don't have to go back to that.
yeah.
It's kind of along the lines of getting knocked down, getting back up. But yeah, everybody should be humble.
Right. I agree.
Shut up, Steven.
Steven Youngblood
The
chiming
king of the
in
Quad
on the
Cities
chat
chiming
here.
in.
I take every nice thing I said about you back.
Oh,
$10.
man.
Listen, for $10 you could get whatever you need, but if you use promo code CSTC, I'm sure he'll knock that down to $5.
A hot dog and a handshake.
Whoa.
I'll get you next time, brother.
I'll get you next time, kid. House is low. House is low.
Oh man. We just,
Oh, that
Great
was
if you're
the
just tuning in, we
who's
just had a
getting this-
run-in from the king of the Quad Cities.
and
Steven Youngblood.
you know what? I'm not gonna say who the other run-in was from. We'll just keep it at
We
between
don't
Johnny
need-
and I.
We don't need to give him any.
I'm choking over here,
Whoa.
legit. Oh, wow.
I don't even know where to go from here. What happened?
You know what?
You don't let me ask questions. That's the problem.
That's amazing. So I don't even know if I want to go that way.
You've tuned into the Johnny Wisdom podcast, everybody. CSTC is no longer here.
No longer. So Nick, do you have any questions you want to ask Johnny, or anything you've kind of been jotting down? I've seen you been jotting down some notes.
Oh no, I just put on here. We went from eating shit to off the rails. I mean,
You might want to timestamp
you
that so
get-
you can edit it out.
we don't have
definitely.
it.
We're
We
gonna
don't
keep
edit
it.
things
Keep it
out.
in.
We don't edit.
stays
We're-
in.
We one take live. That's how we do it here.
Fuck it, we're live.
Better
All right, we're live, pal.
Oh man.
You have half the brain that I do.
You never gave your answer on one thing that everyone should feel.
I don't know that I have a good answer. I wish I did. I've been racking my brain. I like what you said, Nick. I think everybody needs to hit a point where they feel their lowest so that they can bring themselves up.
I spent 5 years doing that. Just working on me. I took 5 years. I dove into work really hard, and I kind of shut a lot of the noise off. So that's definitely one that everybody should do. Just take some time for themselves.
I've gone back and forth. My weight has been an issue for probably 10 years, going back and forth, losing it, gaining it, losing it, gaining it. I'm getting back to that low point with my weight. I'm trying to get myself motivated, and I hope I'm able to. Secret shared on the podcast for those of you who didn't know. I'm a foodaholic. Hello, thank you.
Hey, yep.
My name is
And
Chris.
I got faith in you, CZ. Johnny, now we have known each other for years. I've seen you at your lowest of lows.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, what is if you were to go back in your entire wrestling career, what is your highest of highs, your all-time favorite career moment? You know, it'd be like refereeing
So-
or up to,
So I have two of them.
Okay.
The first one being, because I think I know you want to know my highest to highs and my lows, right? It's kind of where you're going.
Sure.
Okay. Because one of them ties into both. So my highest of highs would finally be getting on and used monthly on AAW's main roster. If you go back and watch, I had the chance to manage Knight Wagner and Jordan McIntyre with Chandler McClure, kind of be a part of that. I got to wrestle Colt Cabana for just a short get beat up, but I got to do that. That was one of them because it was kind of at the time, like that's where everybody went through Danny to train. A lot of the guys are trained. A lot of the old timers are trained through Danny. So the fact that I got to do that and I got to be partnered with one of my friends in Knight Wagner and a guy I had refereed for a couple of times in Chandler McClure when he was with Bryce in, oh God, what were they called?
Ooh.
The All-Stars?
Yep. The All-Stars.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. They were like referees too. It was funny. They'd throw like yellow flags and all that. So that's one of them. And that'll go back to tying in with my low points in my career. The other one is it's a PW Proving Ground Pro. And actually it was back in like 2016 because I actually just saw a memory about it. I went from, so they did a Buckley Cup tournament. It was for one of the promoter's friends. It was a one-night tournament thing they did, and they would bring in names. Ciampa's been on it. Jeff Cobb was on it. So like I got to be around Jeff Cobb when he was starting to blow up. I went from not being on the show to being, like a multi-man on the pre-show to being in another match to wrestling Tyson Dukes.
Wow.
So for people who don't know, Tyson Dukes is a 20-plus year veteran. He was in Team Canada and TNA. He is a big name in Canada. He is very well respected. And easily in like 4 hours, I went from not being on the card to being in the tournament and wrestling Tyson Dukes and having a solid match and him liking what I was doing. It's the same as when another high, because I have a couple of them because they were all early on and I just let it all go to shit. I did a tryout at Dreamwave when Dreamwave was big. It was I did a tryout there. Mustafa Ali was kind of putting the shows together then. He liked my stuff. He was like, "Hey man, I liked your stuff. Just keep coming back." I didn't bite on that. But that goes into my lowest of lows. When I was getting my chances, I let a lot of outside sources and different things outside of wrestling take that away from me. I shot myself in the foot a lot when I could have been just used more and on AEW all the time and kind of what these kids are doing now, traveling across the country and world. I probably could have had that chance, but I shot myself in the foot and let other things get in the way of that. So that would kind of be the low, is just if I could go back, I would just turn my young, dumb self around and send me back in the building that day that I left.
As Mickey said in Rocky, you could have been a contender. You could have been a contender, Johnny.
Yep.
So if speaking of your younger self, if you had one thing to tell your younger self besides, going back and making all those trips that, you wanted to go on, or going back to those companies that invited you back, if there was one thing to tell Johnny Wisdom starting out in professional wrestling, what would you tell Johnny Wisdom starting in professional wrestling?
Take the chance. Because a lot of it comes down to, some of these guys, if it doesn't happen quickly, they give up because you need a substantial income in this day and age. Like you can't rely on a hot dog and a handshake or $5 here, $10 there, losing money on the transportation. I had chances in the support system where I could have dove in harder. And I would just tell myself to dive in harder. It really goes back to shutting out all the other noise. and just putting my head down and going. Because I probably would have had a decent chance at gaining some traction and doing some things here and there. I'm not saying I would have been on TV every week, but if I would have got with the right people, I probably could have been somewhere for a period of time.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we're gonna wrap things up here pretty quick, and I know we've covered a lot, Johnny. I'm sure you have a lot more stories, so we'd love to have you back on the show. But my final question for you here: where is Johnny Wisdom 5 years from now?
This is a podcast, Johnny.
This is where you say something.
We're asking
That's a hard question.
5 years from now, in a perfect world, Johnny Wisdom is behind the scenes helping the next crowd. I've been doing it 20 years already. It's 5 years from now, my time will be past, and it'll be time to help the next crop if they want it, and if the pieces are in place for that to be an option for me. Otherwise, I'm 5 years from now, I'm just going to be kicking back doing my thing. I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, I can say it's definitely been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for filling in at the last minute. I know I know you got the call just a few hours before we went live.
Ironically, it came by snail mail. I don't know. I don't know how that happened.
It did arrive a little late, but that's, I was always told a mailman is never late, and they're always on time.
Johnny, again, thank you so much. You've been what happened?
Angle being Angle, just
making faces.
Just cue the outro. He's done for the night.
I want to thank really quick. I want to thank my wife today. She did the intro. She did the promo that we have scheduled for another date. But my beautiful wife. She did an amazing job. I want to thank you, Johnny, for coming on tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Not a problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Come back anytime. You've been listening to CSTC Podcast, Card Subject to Change, where you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, all over the place here. We appreciate you liking, sharing, subscribing. We've been talking with Johnny Wisdom, and next week, barring any illnesses or craziness, we'll have Shane Hollister on the show. Elimination Chamber is coming up in a couple weeks, and we've got plenty more after that coming up here, so stay tuned. Keep tuning in live, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.